These are 9 military traditions that border on hazing that come from every other branch of service because I made a video about Marine Corps traditions that exploded and you guys demanded more. The very first one is finding flight line. This could also be looking for jet wash, prop wash, rotor wash. Basically, finding flight line is going to grab the flight line, right? Or like going to find it's none of these exist. Prop wash, rotor wash, I can tell you rotor wash does exist. It's what happens when you get too close to a helicopter and it takes off and it kicks up debris that just sucker punches you, because I had to deal with that in Afghanistan during a medevac where I was taking a kneel to post security and you can just see the sand just clobber me and engulf me. But in the garrison, when you're sending someone to go find rotor wash, you're just wasting their time. It doesn't exist. Number 2, and I can't believe I forgot this, we used to play this game too, sending people for the keys to the Humvee. See, I was a motor T Marine, so we drove the Humvees, 7 tons, LVS, LVSR, all the big trucks, MATVs, MRAPs, you name it. The list goes on and on and on, depending on what time period in my career we're talking about. And the one commonality of all of these military vehicles is they don't use a key. They may have a unique ignition sequence, but they don't utilize a key. And so when you send somebody to go look for the keys to a Humvee, again, you are just purely wasting their time hunting something that does not exist to make them look like an idiot. Number 3 is blood wings. Now, I had a whole bunch of people comment about how important it was that I talk about the Army's tradition of the blood wings. And frankly, I just don't really see it as that different from the fact that I already talked about in the Marine Corps. We do pinnings when you get promoted. So you leave the backings off your chevrons and you would have them basically smacked into your chest and often leave blood that would sometimes go through the uniform. Blood wings is the exact same thing. The only reason the Army designates it as so much different is because the Army uses Velcro rank. So when they get promoted, they don't do the pinning. So we do the same thing. When you get your jump wings, dive wings, bubbles, any of the above pins or badges, they do the same thing, but we also do it with rank, allegedly, because that would be hazing. Number 4, this is a good one, wet downs. I did definitely forget about this. Now, this is traditionally more of an officer thing. However, enlisted like staff NCOs do partake and have kind of ripped this off as well. But essentially a wet down is when you get promoted, you take all the people out that are now your peers that evening or that weekend, and you buy all of the rounds. You get everyone drunk. And traditionally, the way this works is that whatever the difference is in your monthly pay from your previous rank to current rank, that's what you throw down on the bar. So let's say you made $3,000 a month, and now you make $3,300 a month. That $300 difference with the new promotion, your first month's paycheck goes on the tab at the bar to get everybody drunk generally at the O Club or the E Club, depending on if you're an officer or enlisted, and everybody has a great time. And the idea is that you are wetting down your rank. Number 5, this is a big one. I knew this one was going to come up, and you guys didn't disappoint. This is shellbacking. Now, a lot of Marines have done this, so there were people commenting I should have put this in the Marine Corps video, but it is not a Marine Corps tradition. It is a Navy tradition. And so shellbacking is what happens when you cross the equator for the first time. This tradition goes back hundreds of years through various naval services, and essentially it is that you are what's deemed a polywog, i.e., Nick the new guy, unseasoned sailor, and the first time you cross the equator, whether heading south or heading north, you partake in a shellback ceremony in which you get celebrated, shall we say, to become a seasoned sailor. Now, shellback ceremonies are ridiculous. A lot of times the senior leadership dresses up as mythical characters, like the captain of the ship might be King Neptune or Davy Jones, etc. You have to do all kinds of absurd tasks. They often involve gross food or just various things, and often involve kissing the baby of the royal belly, which is like a greased up stomach of a larger sailor. Just kind of all ridiculous stuff, right? I've heard all kinds of various stories about shellbacking. However, I have not crossed the equator on a Navy ship, and so I don't have firsthand account of this to tell you what really goes on off the books. What I can tell you is that there are apparently different versions of shellbacking, including the golden shellback, which is where you cross the equator at the exact point where it intersects with the international date line, or the emerald shellback where it crosses with the prime meridian. So different versions, but essentially all the same thing. You are now considered a more seasoned shellbacked sailor. Number 6 here, this is a good one, finding a box of grid squares. A grid square is just something on a map, but you can send somebody to go hunt for them, and this one's pretty buyable, especially because you use like a square, right, which is ironically a triangle, but often when working with a grid, but that is not in fact a grid square, and so you're sending someone to go look for the squares on a map, but they might be thinking it's the protractor, so it becomes funny. Number 7, I've actually not heard this one before, but a lot of people commented about going to find the batteries for chemlights, the chemlight batteries. I think that one's hilarious because I can see people falling for that, and I can see that one being something you play in the middle of the night, which is ridiculous, and I love it. We've got the male buoy watch. This one's pretty funny. Basically, old Navy tradition where they would convince the new guys to stand watch for a buoy in the water in which they are convinced that people have attached mail. And so you have to find this specific buoy as you float by and call it out so that you can go get the mail from the buoy. And of course, that's not a real thing, but people will stand watch on ship for a while looking for the mail buoy. I think that's a good one. Number 9 is the syphilis vaccine. This one's just believable and funny because service members are always getting themselves into all kinds of trouble that often can result in, the occasional STD or STI or whatever they call it these days. So going to look for a vaccine or get the syphilis vaccine or whatever is a believable thing. Couple of bonus mentions here. Apparently the Navy has what's called the Herndon Climb, but this is at the Naval Academy, and so the senior midshipmen will grease this Herndon statue essentially, and the new plebes, in order to become first year or fourth year midshipmen, have to climb up to the top of it and put a cap on top of it. And so far the record is like an hour and a half, and it takes up to 4 or 5 hours to complete this. Every year they do this, and I guess it's quite the spectacle to watch. It's like a team building graduation thing for the plebes. Number 2, this is an interesting one, the roof stomp. This is an Air Force thing where a new commander takes over and the troops will essentially climb on the roof of his house and bang around on it until the new officer welcomes them in for hospitality and has to provide them food and drink. And then the Air Force has what they call the Mustache March, which I guess is every month of March. You shave your mustache and you can grow it out throughout the month, and it's a competition in memorandum of a guy who used to grow it out a little bit out of regs. I can appreciate that one because we do Movember, which is Mustache November, as like a honorary thing in the Marine Corps. And I always had a mustache for the back 5-6 years of my career. And I always enjoyed growing out the mustache because it was like that one thing that's in regs that pisses everybody off, including especially sergeants major who think that they are nasty, but they're in regs, so they can't really do anything about it. Now that we've covered all of these, what traditions am I still missing? I'm sure there are some other good ones out there, so let's compile these and let's see if we can get another video out there talking about these. Which of these was your favorite? Personally, for me, it is the shellback because I have a lot of friends who have done that. Although I will say, looking at this list, the male buoy watch is a great one, and I'm sure plenty of people have fallen for that over the years. Make sure you subscribe if you want more military content. Have a great day.